Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hare Krishna Project podcast. This is episode number 83. A big thank you to everyone who continues to tune in on a regular basis from all over the world, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. It's always good to have you with us. Don't forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, please do hit that all-important subscribe button so you can keep updated about future podcasts and videos from the Hare Krishna Project. And if you're watching this on Facebook, please do like or follow the Hare Krishna Project page so you can keep updated about what we're up to. So this is episode number 83. And I'm delighted. I don't know why I said it like that. A bit curious what's going to happen. And I'm delighted. The suspense. And I'm delighted to welcome our guest. It's Rebecca.
I should become a co-host. This is
Co-host.
it. This is
we could
yeah.
have such,
That's what you need.
We could have you could interview me one day, maybe. I don't know.
Well, yes. See, maybe that's what we all want to know, really.
I
Just
can
that,
reveal all.
maybe.
What do I really know about certain things? No, that's anyway. Today's podcast is about you. It's a delight to welcome Rebecca. Rebecca,
Hello.
your first question. It's like a game show, isn't it? Your first question is the same.
How much
question.
money for? Oh no, we're not betting people. We're not betting people. We're not allowed to do that anymore.
The first question is the same question that every other guest gets to start with. It's tell us a bit about you and where you're from.
How did you end up here? Right. So my name's Rebecca. I'm 36. I'm originally from Northampton, England. I'm residing in Leicester at the moment. If you watched last week's one, I'm residing with that Prabhu, me and Jack. I'm a stepmother of 3 beautiful children. I'm also an artist. Well, I would say, and all of the other things that involves.
What does art? I mean, I was about to say, what does art involve? What kind of artist are you?
Okay, well, it goes in sort of cycles of what's needed. At the moment, a lot of my time is dedicated to Sri Sri Radha Madhava of Leicester. I do a lot of rangoli for them. I sew for them. I've given myself the moniker, although it's maybe full of pride, and obviously I'm so fallen, that I get to be God's tailor. I get to fix all of the deity outfit. Oh, it makes my heart sing. Don't tell Prabhupada. It makes my heart sing. Like, it's just the best. I love it. I get to work with my mentor, Seva Priya, who runs, she's head pujari of a beautiful temple on Granby Street in Leicester. Radha Madhava is quintessential. Like, it's and that's really like what I'd like to talk about, is my sort of burgeoning relationship with what I thought originally were inanimate objects that absolutely not, they are not. But I can paint, I can sew. I've got a degree in graphic communication. I did that at Northampton, but mostly just been sort of a professional artist. I wouldn't say very lucrative. You wouldn't have heard of me. But it's, nonetheless, it still works.
Before we talk about your seva or your service at the temple and the deities, tell us, how did you discover Krishna consciousness? How did the philosophy of bhakti kind of come into your life?
I would say actually that maybe something like this was always on the cards for me. Like we were discussing before, I was a staunch atheist. It doesn't suit my personality to believe in higher powers and higher beings and things having control over my life. But I do enjoy putting myself into positions where that might be a thing, because curiosity does indeed not kill the cat. The cat gets to go and so for deities. I was brought up in a sort of middle class family where we didn't My dad was middle class, lower middle class. My dad was a lorry driver. My mum was stay-at-home mum. I went to a normal school. Northampton at that time was predominantly white. It was very much the Hinduism definitely wasn't a thing. You know, not for me. It wasn't anything that I'd have close contact with. Always been very interested in maybe esotericism, the occult. Not so much that I would ever consider myself like an occultist. I could read a bit of tarot.
Mm.
Um,
Did you have any? Did you have any experiences with the occult or esotericism, like any
oh,
practices you were involved
absolutely
with?
not. No, if I wanted to see a ghost so bad, couldn't see a ghost. Always wanted freaky stuff to happen. Never freaky stuff happened. It was always. I was. I mean, before I met Jack, I had a lot of time to myself. Used to just inhale books. Very interested of these things.
Inhale
Um,
books. Wow, I love that
just
expression.
like just like
I thought you were going to say.
inhale.
I thought you were going to say something else. In
Oh, no, no. I was never into those kind of drugs. No, I wasn't into the smoking drugs. But I was always into looking for answers to questions that I didn't really know I was asking. Not necessarily why we were here, just how did we end up here, and I think being also a generation not like my children now that are absolutely sort of entwined in YouTube and stuff. I
Hmm.
was the generation where we recreationally watched it to watch weird stuff on the internet, and so I got into sort of Madame Blavatsky, and we used to like be into. I say we, I mean me. Like Rudolf Steiner stuff, and would have liked some weird stuff to happen. No weird stuff ever happened, but and so I met Jack, um, our whirlwind romance, and then I was a mother, and then what really happened is what I call the gateway drug, which was the kirtan. We went to kirtan Leicester. I think it's called the Yoga House in Leicester. Beautiful building, beautiful old building, and that was it. That was it. It was done. It was done because it was some of the most beautiful. It was a beautiful experience, beautiful music, trying to understand sort of transcendental, how that has such an effect on you. It opened the door up to all of this stuff, and um, maybe what me and Jack definitely have in common is when we do stuff, we do it properly. We're not going to go dip our toe in and go, oh, I don't know, that's a bit hot. No, it's full body in at the deep end.
You
We
don't
went
like to sit on the periphery or on the edge. You want to
no,
throw
no,
yourself
no,
in
no,
and do
no.
it.
I mean, I think just to I don't want any listeners or viewers to think, oh, this woman's crazy. No, my children are safe. Don't worry. We didn't just throw us all in. It's been very much it's their choice at the end of the day. But if you want to experience something, I think you just get involved. And if
Hmm.
anybody else has been to the house programs with anything ISKCON, they'll know that you don't just go there once. Then they get the cracking food out, and then you're singing the Hare Krishna, and you're like, oh wow, this is what we're doing now, is it? And it's fantastic because
Hmm.
it's no other sort of it's no Sunday service where I have to feel like I'm a sinner and that I've been super bad and that I'm damned. No, I'm taught that hey, this isn't the real world, and we're looking for something better, which chimed with me a bit more. Anyways, did that answer your question?
It did.
Sorry.
It actually it did answer my question, and I knew what you were talking about.
Yeah, but some people might not know what we're
In the
talking
sense that
about. You know what I
that's
mean?
also my experience of Christianity, and I was involved particularly with any. It was it was an evangelical church a long time ago for a while, and I always felt feeling bad about myself,
Yeah, you don't need to feel bad. Why do
and
we need to feel bad?
exactly. And one of the things that attracted me to Krishna consciousness was I always felt good rather than bad.
It's dopamine. Like it gets the if you don't believe in anything, if you struggle with the faith, just the dopamine hits are good because
Mm.
it's that sort of beautiful togetherness that when the kirtan's banging and the food's great and the people, you meet so many beautifully nice people, you think there's got to be something to this. Got to be something to this. Is there? I mean, and hopefully we'll talk about this in a little while.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure that there is, but I want to get stuck in to try and find out if that makes sense.
Well, before I ask you a question about that, the other thing I want to say is I know who you mentioned, Madame Blavatsky. So most people have not heard of Madame Blavatsky, but I have. So she was one of the founders of Theosophy, wasn't she?
Yes.
In 1870s, was it?
Yes.
1880s.
Yeah. I think it was a little bit later than that, because
maybe 1890s. But she was a real character, wasn't she? This kind of crystal.
Well, do you know what to be? Yeah, she had a good crack going on. She was Russian. She was Russian, and she I think now it's been a few years since I'd sort of tried to get myself out of that sort of rabbit holes, and I'm probably looking for a book as well. Like, I'm not sitting where my books are because the light's bad, but she basically was trying to put like Kabbalah and sort of more Christian, trying to do a bit of a recipe of a new religion, like Dion Fortune and those that were trying to, not necessarily God as sort of Judeo-Christian gods, but more maybe gods as in like the not monotheist. You know what I mean.
So I mean, were you involved with Theosophy at any level?
Oh no, never. Like, would never go to any meetings or anything. Oh no, that I wasn't that brave.
Because at the beginning of the last century, it was quite big in the UK, Theosophy. I mean, now most people have not heard of it at all.
No.
This was my quote unquote Bible at university. It's called The New Believers by David Barrett, and it's got all the different new religious movements and cults and sects. And I've just found Theosophy, and it's in the same list as Satanism, the chaos magic, the flying saucer cults, and
would have been well up for that.
And the Raelia movement, which was the UFO thing. And I also say, when I first learned about ISKCON, it was from this book.
Was it really?
ISKCON's also in here.
I mean, I don't know whether I'd call it like a new religious movement, considering like the Vedas, like some of the oldest literature in existence. Like, but I can understand why, because you look at how the Hare Krishnas, even you look at how the Hare Krishnas are done in like something like The Simpsons, like in popular culture. There's a little skit in The Simpsons where Homer and Bart are walking through an airport, and there's evangelical Christians, there's Hare Krishna, 2 devotees, and then there's these guys that are offering a free weekend to go and be with their master, and it's some like suicide cult. And you can see where people thought that the Hare Krishna were not that this has been going on for millennia potentially.
So it's okay. So you discovered Krishna in this life. You discovered Krishna consciousness with your partner around
with Jack. I mean, if Jack would have been into the UFO stuff, would have been UFO people, right? Probably.
I love it.
I mean, would Krishna? I mean, I'm glad that he chose this one. I mean, I have to. Not that I didn't go willing. I think it was the right kind of spirituality that we were looking for. And I think if it had been, maybe I wouldn't have gone Satanism, being a mother and that. I don't know, maybe I would have gone that far. But this is what he chose. And so we did that together, because at that point, I wanted to not do it for him, but, maybe he'd not had an opportunity of a partner that would support him to do anything that made his heart sing. And that was my responsibility, and I wanted to make his heart sing, so we went together.
It sounds lovely. So
dead romantic.
So let's chat a bit briefly about, you can chat for hours if you want, about the last year. So you're quite new to, next question. We're getting through these questions so easily. You're quite new to the Hare Krishna movement. How are you finding it? How are things for you at ISKCON Leicester? Have you been welcomed, or are you finding it a bit
Yes. I mean,
or are you finding it a bit overwhelming?
I mean, to say that I wasn't overwhelmed would be a lie, because I don't know. And maybe talking to another sort of a white devotee, trying to remember people's names that are not Bob and Steve and Michelle is very difficult, and to know about all of the things that you need to know about when you're coming into lots of ritual, and when to do this and when to do that, and trying to also encourage my little 6-year-old to do it the same as well, like stop pointing at the deities, stop pointing at the deities. You know, it's but all in all, no, I think that we've been welcomed, as Jack alluded to. He didn't speak too much on it, but we are there's about maybe 15 white devotees of a majority of Indian devotees, because we live in Leicester. It's a highly Hindu. In this area, we live in quite an Islamic area, but our congregation is very much of a Hindu. So our Leicester is a very different experience to other places. But I tell you what, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I don't think I'd want it any other way. We visited other temples, and it's just not the same as what we've got. It's a very special.
When you say other
food's
temples,
banging. The
do you
food's
mean
really
kind
good.
of do you mean like
So
other Hindu temples? Do you mean?
no other ISKCON temples. So we go to other ISKCON temples, and you know, I spent some time in Hungary. I went to the Budapest temple, ISKCON temple in Budapest, beautiful temple. And then the one in the Krishna Valley, the one more into Hungary. That's where I did some sewing, learning to sew for our deities. Even that's like predominantly white. There's not a lot of Indian people there, and it's just, ours has got that flavor. It's so fantastic. I do recommend anybody to come and visit. It's just such a rich experience. That's all I can say.
And do you go every Sunday to the Sunday program?
Yes, most Sundays, and then we go to things in the week as well. I at the moment, Jack is doing a few things in the week, so I have to stay at home and be with our children. But he's doing some sort of spiritual progression stuff, so that's fine with me. But yeah, I would say that we interact with the congregation maybe 3 or 4 times a week. And I'm also in contact with my mentor as well, and he is also in contact with his mentor daily. So it's really absolutely ingrained, like really knitted into our lives.
So that's a mentor at the ISKCON temple that's kind of
Yes.
guiding you and answering any questions you might have.
Yeah. Yes, and also, I mean, I think it all is to do with what sort of service you want to get into. I mean, my aim was, I'm not really too hot on getting initiated and things like that. I don't really feel very ready for any of that. I just wanted to get myself stuck into sort of putting my money where my mouth is. Right, if I am this devotional being and want to devote myself to Krishna, I want to be, you know, Radharani's handmaid. Let's do it. Let's actually do it. And so most of my service is because unfortunately I'm disabled, so I have quite bad mobility issues, so I can't do all the Hari Nam and the door-to-door stuff. I mean, oh dear, never mind. But I can't do those things. But I get to do the lovely, like all of like I said, like I do paintings for Sri Sri Radha Madhava, and I do the outfits. I get to do all those things that take a long time and really intimate for me. Whereas Jack is well more agile, and so he can go and do all those bits. But I would say, yeah, that it's not merely for progression for myself, but just to get stuck in. It's doing wonders for my mental health, you know, being able to especially now the kids have gone back to school, I can now get back stuck in doing my service. Like I've had to have a sort of 6 weeks off because my service to Krishna is looking after the children at the moment, and then I have to I come in and we get some outfits on the go and all of that. But yes.
Let's talk a bit. I'd love to talk a bit about Sri Sri Radha Madhava, the deities
Yep.
in Leicester, and how did you get involved with that in terms of sewing for them and putting together outfits for them?
I mean, I hope Seva Priya wouldn't mind me. I say that she said that she prayed for me because my grandmother taught me how to dress make from a young age, was always sort of wanting to sew and stuff, and me and Jack had just got into it was funny because one of our first meetings we ever went to is what I called like the AGM, like where they had like their
talk about being thrown in at the deep end.
We were like, what, this isn't really what we sat there and then talking about all of the Lakshmi,
yeah,
like talking about all of the things, and then Seva Priya's the people that were working at the Seva Priya, that our head pujari was talking about like what they need for deity outfits, and I'm elbowing Jack in the ribs, going, "Oh, I'd love to do that. Oh, I'd love to do that so bad." And then sort of chickened out of it for a bit because I assumed that you needed to be initiated to be able to touch. I don't know where I'd assumed this from, but I assumed that that was the case. No, it turns out that's not the case, and so I courted her a bit. I sort of found her on Instagram, my Seva Priya, found her on Instagram and just was like, please, please, please let me come and sew for you. I will do anything. And then I sprung up and that's how that went. That was probably, I don't know, about 3 or 4 months in.
Wow.
And
it was coming. You guys have been going for about a year, haven't you, to the temple? Literally a year to the week or something.
God, it doesn't seem, it seems so much longer, but yes, it sounds about right. Yeah. But it's been sort of Jack was going to, I believe he talked about a sacred lounge he was doing that weekly, and that's like what would they call it, like a launch pad into it. It's very sort of low level, not a lot of ISKCON talk, like not a lot of Krishna conscious talk, a lot of sort of trying to get people to think about sort of those sorts of spirituality questions, what do you think purpose is, and but not so hard. And I remember going to one of those and I was like, I want to get stuck into the scripture stuff. So now we've got all the books, it's just, it feels like it's been such a lot more time, but no, it's not been that long.
And you recently went to Hungary, didn't you?
Yes, yeah, earlier on this year.
So tell us about the trip and what were you doing there and what was it all about?
So again, my blessed shout out to Seva Priya. I'm sure she's going to be like, "Why do you keep talking about me?
Stop saying my
name." Yeah, exactly, better. She's fantastic. I mean, actually, I would say she's a savior, really, because often I think that I felt quite despairing in some things but she's being able to go, oh, let's get something going. But this was one of those things, is that so we ordered a lot of our, I don't know if I'm meant to tell all the secrets, but sometimes we get the outfits in from India sewn by the wonderful tailors over there. But would it be wonderful if we could just sew our own? But to sew some of the outfits, you need to know a certain technique, and it's called Ari, AARI. That's right.
Ari,
and it's
AARI.
Right, yeah, and it's a special. I mean, have I got some to hand? No, or else you'll end up falling over and all sorts. And it's a special technique where that they do in India, and we found a course that we could go to, not in India, which is quite funny because we can go to India and learn it. And I think that's our next. We're going to go and do some further learning. We went to Hungary. She found where they do a course, and we went for a week, and it was just, it's not like a holiday. It was 9 to 5 stitching, and it was bliss. It was absolute gorgeous. It was a bit, I mean, maybe a bit scary, because I'd never been to a place like that before. I'd never, we looked at it, and then within a few days I wanted to move there. I was quite willing to be like, oh, let's cancel the children's Xboxes and stuff, and we'll cancel the internet, and we're moving to Hungary. But I think what I also love about Krishna consciousness is that it seems to be that they pick out the skills that you have. I found other things that they've always wanting to, oh, you're not doing it right, you're not doing it right. Whereas Krishna or Sri Sri Radha Madhava seem to want what I have already. So I know how to paint, brilliant, let's do some painting. You know how to dressmake, brilliant, let's do some dressmaking. And that's so fulfilling on a level that if you were ever questioning your faith, you'd be like, but how am I so perfect for, how have I got these skills that make me so perfect to serve Radharani, to make her, it's coincidental. No, it's not, is it? I don't know. It's very interesting. So we went there, and sorry, I keep
no. I was just going to say, you made a really interesting point about, you I literally can't remember the words that you used, but it was about how Krishna consciousness isn't about giving things up. I mean, there are certain things we shouldn't necessarily do.
Don't start talking to me about the garlic and onions, right?
But
no, because I can't deal with that.
But Krishna consciousness is about dovetailing our behavior.
Yes.
So if you're good at something, do it for Krishna. You can still do it,
Yes.
but do it for Krishna.
Yes.
It's not about giving everything up and living an austere monastic lifestyle. So if you're good at sewing, if you're good at art, do it for Krishna.
Yes, and it's a better feeling than, getting an exhibition of your own, because you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it. I mean, I don't know if anyone can relate to this, that I could paint something for myself and I'd go, oh, that's terrible, that's the worst thing I've ever seen. But when you're painting it for Krishna, it wasn't mine in the first place. It wasn't mine in the first place, and it won't be mine now. And now it's something that can be used to show my love for Krishna, which and maybe a year ago, even 2 years ago, if you'd have heard me say, if I'd have heard myself saying that, I would have called you a lunatic, right? I'd have been like, that's ridiculous. But that whole the creative freedom that you get from not doing art for yourself is bliss. It is, because it's the responsibility is off you. You just need to make it so that you've done it with the intention is there. Your whole heart in it. Yes, Krishna's gonna love it. He's gonna think it's wicked. What more do you want? What more could you want from your career? If that would be the rest of my day's job, I would be happy. That would be, bliss, absolute bliss.
So you were in Hungary, you were there for a week, and you were kind of doing a course on sewing for the deities. So do you now make new outfits on a regular basis for Sri Sri Radha Madhava?
We're starting to. It's starting to ramp up again. They have a lot of things that need repairing. They get new things, because obviously it's just been Janmashtami. We'd finished an outfit for Balaram's appearance day. I've not been interested in making the thing from scratch yet, but between myself and the other ladies that do the deity outfits and Seva Priya, we all get given a pit and we work like, you know what I mean? We work together to get these pieces together. And I think we're planning on some ones for next year, because sometimes they take a long time to design, and there has to be but it's nice to find reasons and themes and narratives to put these outfits. So at the moment, Seva Prayers are asking me to design something for, I think it's for next year. I've got a beautiful sari that she's given me, and she said, go run with it. And I'm still in the process of that, because I find that doing readings, the charity and Rita at the moment is, I'm trying to find a place where something sings to me and I go, that's what the narrative I'm going to put into this outfit. And then but we've got many outfits, that some that need repairing and some that just need altering a little bit. They've got like a whole wardrobe of things. It's quite involved. Yeah.
And what is how big is that Pajari team at ISKCON Leicester in terms of?
There's fairly big. I mean, I couldn't tell you. I'm sorry, there's something going on across my street.
Is there a domestic going on?
No, it's lovely. No, it's lots of little children. They're doing something. It's nice. I would say it's with all the backup service and those people that do that. I would say it was quite a hefty load of because it's to cover all the services. I mean, I would hate to give a figure and it to be wrong. So no, I don't know, but from like the tailoring, the sewing, the ladies that do the sewing service, there's probably 10 of us who do that.
That's amazing.
I mean,
that's a good number of people that are committed to one particular service, and it sounds like they're doing it really well as well.
I would like to think so. I mean, I'm sure we're not all the time. I'm sure that we're all ripping our hair out somewhere, but Krishna likes that. If we ever, we want to be involved in his pastimes, and so sometimes he plays with us, and that's his best fun.
and what is it about kind of serving the deities in that way that really appeals to you, in terms of sewing outfits for the deities? What is it that you really love about it that's kind of really attracted your heart, so to speak?
And saying attracted my heart is it literally it. I would say that it's a bit like if you ever made something for your own child, that you put love and care into this item, and actually maybe with Sri Sri Radha Madhava you can trust him more, because you know that it's not going to absolutely get ruined in 5 minutes like you would if I put my daughter in it. But it's a strange feeling, and maybe strange isn't the word that I'm looking for, and I don't want to cause offense, but it is a strange feeling, because I do find that the more time I'm away from Sri Sri Radha Madhava, I feel like my connection with Krishna wanes. But say it was Yulan Yatra, that's how it's said, isn't it? Yeah, Yulan Yatra. I was there crying my eyes out every time, all that whole week, just there, just having a beautiful time, like just being so overwhelmed with their beauty. No, and again, I don't want to cause offense, but I just want to use this point to really explain what I mean. We're talking about statues made of brass, but they're not statues made of brass. They're not. You was to ask somebody else, they'd go, how can you have a relationship with something that's not living? No, you've not experienced it. You've not experienced what it's like to be in their presence when they're wearing something that you've contributed to. Tears in my eyes. A bit like, maybe when your children do something that you're so proud of, or so not proud for myself, but proud for them. Like they're doing, my daughter Robin is doing gymnastics. It makes you want to cry. Sri Sri Radha Madhava are wearing something, and I get to swing them on their swing. It's moving. Now, I don't know what that's all about. People would say, well, obviously it's Krishna softening your heart, but it's really quite, I mean, we're talking about esotericism, earlier, but there's nothing more esoteric than that how can you have such feelings about something that you're told in this day and age that doesn't exist, and that can be very difficult. I've often struggled with that, because I'm very again, was a staunch, very atheist, very, how can you believe in something that you can't see and you can't scientifically prove? And but I tell you, I would do anything for those deities. I would do.
It's interesting
absolutely
how
anything.
it's kind of like, some devotees might not like me using this term, but I'm going to use it. It's like you've gone from one extreme to the other. You haven't stopped halfway in the middle. So you've gone from
No.
staunch atheism, that there's no supreme being, there's nothing. You haven't stopped in the middle with, oh, there is a god or there's gods, we just can't see them or experience them. You've gone over here that there are god or gods, and actually you can see and experience them.
And they're there, and I get to serve them.
Yeah.
Yeah, very odd. Very odd. I mean, I think that I think the reason why I have such a relationship with Sri Sri Radha Madhava and a burgeoning relationship with Krishna, that's what I would always say, is that it's budding, it's coming. We're sort of, we're seeing how things go. Is what would, if you were to put it into, modern, like we're seeing each other or whatever. I used to feel the humbleness of I'm nothing. Like, why do these people think that this God has any, I'm talking Christian God, like, has any sort of plans for you? Because we're nothing. We're literally procreate because that's what we've been, we've evolved to do. Christian, I don't know. I've obviously not spending time in as a Christian. It makes it a bit more about you and like that you're important. Whereas you can maybe shift over to Krishna consciousness and feel, oh no, you're still not anything too important, which means that you've not got too much responsibility. Like you're let off the hook as such. But if I can get Krishna's eye just for a second, that means that I can release myself from this pain and suffering, because isn't that what we all want, really? Does that make sense? That you sort of you go from, I'm not self-righteous, and that sort of self-righteous, I've been chosen by God. Oh no, I don't think I've been chosen by God at all. I'm just remembering what I've been conditioned to forget. And that doesn't make me special, makes me Rebecca still. But it just means that I'm a little bit closer to the destination of not having to come back and do all this again. And if that means that I get to sow for Sri Sri Radha Madhava or any other deity, because I'm sure that love, I went to Hungary and felt things for those deities. What was it? Sri Masunda. No, that's bad. I should know. I can't remember their
name. Can I ask a question?
I felt similar.
Can I ask a question about your friends and family? I mean your parents. What do they think about all of this? Because you've obviously changed from being a very kind of independent-minded woman, atheist, into the kind of esoteric things of life to being a practicing or trying to be a practicing Hare Krishna devotee.
Yeah, I mean, my dad thinks it's really weird. My lorry driver dad thinks it's really weird.
I can imagine.
He's quite cute. He's like, I think he's more aware of like the sort of the Hinduism, as in which god do you need to pray for to get some money, sort of thing. Sorry, be a pain. I'm sure you won't mind me saying it. Whereas my mum is a bit different. She is more like, I saw this for you. I just didn't. We didn't know which one it was going to be. Because I was
in terms of a spiritual path, in terms of a spirituality.
She saw this for me. I mean, I think she was a bit at first, and sorry, Mum, I hope you don't mind me saying, I think she was a bit skeptical at first. Why are you sewing for statues again? And then I took her to the Soho Street temple, and she saw Jagannath and she burst into tears. Oh, we're very much crying in our family, but burst into tears because she was so taken with them. And I was like, oh, here we go. But so actually my family's good. I think some of our friends, we're all hippy dippy lot, aren't we? So I think maybe our friends are not so I think maybe it's maybe a shock for Jack's older life, like, because very much Jack was into sort of the yoga and that sort of thing, but maybe not the religious, like not the religious. That was definitely not a thing. I mean, I can't say I've really asked my friends that much, because they just know, oh, is this what Rebecca's doing now? Oh, okay, we're doing it, and because it's been going on for a while now, I think it's just a normal thing. But then I'd become a mother.
In my head, you've kind of set the scene by, your kind of hippie background.
Yeah. I was an artist, and
yeah,
I am an artist, and
so
spirituality
can be a way of just really expressing yourselves, particularly spiritual traditions that come from the place we call India. Kind of different spiritual philosophies like Bhakti, or I mean, the Hare Krishna movement in the West was after Prabhupada attracted the hippies of the 1960s. A lot of the first devotees and disciples of Prabhupada were hippies. They were disillusioned with the world. They're fed up with the establishment, and they were looking for something different. And Prabhupada brought that thing that was different from India and presented it to them. Whereas I have more of I guess you could describe it, a conventional working class background. So working class, but conventional in the sense, we don't really kind of get involved with that,
I think that's where Jack comes from a little bit. Not to speak for him, but I think he did demonstrate that it was definitely something that he might not have even thought of. Whereas I was looking for something. Maybe I wouldn't have said it was God. Maybe I would have thought it was, I mean, who knows? Chaos magic. I don't know. I'd like to say no now, being a bit more grown up and a bit more sort of trying to be a bit mature. That would be what I would have liked to have gone into. But I was obviously searching for something, and I feel I have a little envy of those people that met Prabhupada in the 70s, because I would have been there. I'd have been like, oh, okay, yes, I'll give up all my stuff. That's it. I'm here. I would have been there painting and doing. You watch some of the wonderful documentaries and stuff of how you just get to give it all up and Prabhupada. I mean, imagine being able to go and work for the book trust or something and paint and illustrate for the book trust, and that would have been where I was at. But I think more for Jack and maybe for you is that it was just something that you didn't really talk about, and then all of a sudden all we talk about is our spirituality, because it's surprising how it just weaves into everything that we do. Yeah, I think maybe I was a bit, thinking about it now, maybe I was a little bit more open to it, and he was maybe it was quite a left field sort of movement. But I wouldn't like to talk for him.
And that, that really leads us on really nicely onto the next question. You've just said it's kind of a left field movement. Let's talk a little bit maybe about being a woman. I find it very difficult having being a woman.
How long you got?
You're a kind of you're a modern woman. What does that mean? You're a woman in the 21st century. You've got your own mind. You've got your own probably political views. You're very driven. You're very you know how to defend for yourself. And you've joined this movement, which and I talked about this on previous podcasts, is actually quite socially conservative.
Absolutely. Yes.
And we had some dialogue before we did this podcast on that. So how are you finding it in terms
of? You're trying not to get me cancelled on the internet or in ISKCON, please, thank you. But yeah,
you've joined a socially conservative movement, and I know some people might just. How are you finding it? How's your experience?
I mean, maybe I can't say I haven't struggled. I mean, to paint a picture, of where I was before, very sort of openly. I was in my 30s and I was single and I could do whatever I wanted, and so that's what I did. And before I met Jack, and then my whole life changed. And again, talking about Krishna, just be careful what you wish for, because you absolutely get it threefold. but I think that I would say it was a struggle, and because there's certain things that if you're not, that I wasn't a modest woman, and it's and having a daughter now who's 6 going on 18, you understand now where you think I need to imbue some sort of modesty into her, but not take away her femininity and her her spirit, because I'm not trying to cover her up to I mean, I'm not going to cover her up for her own protection because some other people are awful about women and children. She needs to feel safe in a community, that because that's what we all should feel safe. It's interesting because maybe also being a bit of a heavier woman is also difficult, because it's you don't want to show too much skin, and then you're because of you don't want to you don't want to set brahmacharis off and stuff, and you think this maybe that's not what I mean. Oh, sorry, my battery seems to be going low. I'll have to plug it in. But that but do you understand what I mean? It's I think if you're not brought up, I think, how do I put this? Being a person who was also came from a strong-minded mother, she let me wear whatever I wanted to wear. It wasn't about and whereas now I have to think about how I am presenting myself and how I'm seen. But actually I think that's also quite freeing, because it's not necessarily about attracting male attention or even being perceived to attract male attention. It's just existing and being modest. But it has taken it. Sorry, don't mind me. It has taken like it has taken a little bit of getting used to, because even when me and Jack met, it wasn't like I was a weightlifter. I did a lot of weightlifting, and so I was used to be down the gym. So I was used to being in gym clothes. So, and even sometimes that's not really appropriate, and how women have to navigate that space by going, but why is my body inappropriate? Why is my natural body inappropriate? And why do I need to cover up? Whereas maybe we need to change the narrative around women's bodies. But that's the whole of the world. That's not just Krishna consciousness. That's everybody. So I don't know really. I don't know.
Because I know I kind of laughed, but it was a very serious comment you made a few minutes ago about setting the brahmacharis off.
Yeah, well, you can't be setting the brahmacharis.
But I would say that's not your issue. That's theirs.
No, it isn't. It isn't. But I think that
I remember
think that women.
Sorry.
Oh no, go on. Sorry.
No, you go. You go ahead. Go ahead.
But I do think as you do sort of have a responsibility, and I think until maybe before I would have got real bent out of shape and have been like, what are you talking about? Why can't I should be able to walk around naked, how a woman should be able to. Whereas I think it's that sort of gender roles, and really becoming a mother of 3 children has changed that. And again, Krishna works in the best ways. I think that in this day and age, women are now sort of shunned if they want to embrace that gender role. If I'll try and explain it a bit more. I was an independent woman who could have done anything she wanted, have as many partners as she liked, had as much things. I've got things coming out of my. It's like I was preparing for my eldest son, who just wears all my trainers at the minute, right? I've got a house full of stuff. I could have done anything that I liked. Was I happy? Absolutely not. In and out of hospital, very unwell, struggling mentally and physically. Was that to do with me wanting actually to settle down and be a mother? Yes, in some cases. I'm not saying this is going to work for every woman. And yes, sometimes being a woman in Krishna consciousness maybe has a responsibility that is stifling, that we have to make sure that we are being proper. But that is also because we are not this body. I'm hoping that these brahmacharis were women once before, so that they realize what it was like to have to be so worried. But also the women in the movement, I can change that. You know, I can be a woman in the movement and model my behavior to my daughter and show, okay, you don't need to. I mean, think about how the sari itself has been overtly sexualized by Western culture. You know, a lot of and how we're all meant to wear the blouses. You know, that's not traditional Indian wear. Does that answer your question? I think there is a certain responsibility of women in Krishna consciousness that we do need to have an air of modesty, but we can change the narrative of how the men and, you know, the brahmacharis react to us by modeling it to our children. I think that makes sense in my head. I don't know. Maybe you can ask some more questions.
It does make sense. I mean, I've got a few comparisons, but I remember about 20 years ago when I was identifying as a Christian. And I
At least
was
it wasn't a
involved.
helicopter. It's okay.
I was at a Christian Union gathering at university.
Oh, it sounds. Sounds so
I
much
left
fun.
that night like every other night feeling depressed. So
yes,
and it was a conversation that the topic of discussion for that night was about, I think it might have been about sex or sexual this and that and lust and everything. And I remember what was the conversation was about men getting aroused by women. And I remember the president of the Christian Union said something like, yeah, I'm a man and I get aroused by women. And I think one of the things that would help me is women, can you wear more clothes? That would really help. And I remember thinking, don't be so bloody rude. It's your fault you get aroused. Yes, you're aroused by a woman's flesh, but don't tell a woman what to wear. If she wants to show something, let her show it. She shouldn't put clothes on to suit you. And I just remember,
it's always been the age-old thing of women. Women get raped.
You can't control yourself.
Women get raped because they wear mini skirts, and it's like, no, women get raped because men can't. I mean, and other women. Like, I don't think that we should. I think we do live in an age where we vilify men, and we've also emasculated men. That coming back to those traditional gender roles, maybe in Krishna consciousness, maybe if I spoke to other women in my congregation, they'd go, no, I like my man, I like my Prabhu to be what it is, you know, and I like those gender roles. But I think we're also, human nature is human nature, and I mean, I mean, this might be a bit controversial thing to say, is I think some of the writings in Krishna consciousness talking about how sort of adult relationships should be, maybe needing updating a little bit if we want those relationships to continue, and that those sort of, you know, adult relationships to continue. I mean, me and Jack aren't married. I mean, as soon as we're able, I'm sure we will.
If you get married, it should be because you want to get married. It shouldn't be
no,
because
but
someone's
I do want to. I do want to marry him. Don't. God, I wouldn't pass up that. But it shouldn't mean that me and Jack can't have a healthy relationship. You know, because we've got our Krishna conscious children. That sometimes can irk me a little, because I think, so I can't enjoy Jack, and we can't enjoy each other unless we're begetting Krishna conscious children.
I think such like an old-fashioned term, does it? We're begetting.
Well, no, but it is. Where I mean, isn't it in the nectar? Is it the nectar of devotion? Which one is it? The little. I think Jack talked about it.
You know, ultimately,
I think he made. Go on, sorry.
My view is that there are certain guidelines that we should try and follow if we can in the practice of Krishna consciousness. There's a certain lifestyle, there's standards that we can aspire to follow, But
Absolutely.
ultimately, we're all attracted by Maya. We're all living in Maya. We're experiencing Maya, and Krishna consciousness is about trying to live a devotional life or a sattvic life, which means good, a good life. But ultimately, don't be too hard on yourself.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
if you have a
And
bar of chocolate every now and then, it's not the worst thing in the world.
I mean, as long as you're not, as long as you're not brave. But then I think that sometimes it might just, as you were talking about being a woman in Krishna consciousness. I mean, I'm not signing myself up for the job, and absolutely not. But there are some women in this movement that are thinking, okay, maybe the narrative does need to change a little bit into, no, you can still have sex with your partner slash husband if you're, you're not having it off with everybody else, and um watching pornography, you're not doing those things, and you're also living you're following the principles and regulative principles, you're doing those things. Because I think, I know I'm trying to be very careful what I say. We have to remember that a lot of these texts were written by men who were either brahmacharis themselves, lifelong renunciates, men in their 70s who, had their families had done that. And I'm hoping that the next generation of devotees who influence the movement may push it towards as long as you're having healthy relationships. I mean, then maybe it'll be like, well, what do you class as healthy? Da, 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 da. But as long as you're bringing up your children, in a spiritual
Mm.
way, as long as you're doing all the things that are good for your family, that maybe if you still wanted to, can't believe I'm saying this, but if you still wanted to have sex with your partner, it shouldn't be vilified. You should still be allowed to do that. I mean, does it cause a lot of arguments in Krishna conscious homes? I don't know, but it would be interesting to know. I mean, I don't know, because you've had a lot of women on. Maybe you have had a few women on. What did they say about that? I don't know.
Well, believe it or not, we've not really.
Oh, don't tell me on the first one. I'm gonna end up.
This is episode 83. Have I ever really done a podcast about sex? No, not really. I mean, there's been some topics that I've really wanted to talk about. Actually, sex hasn't been one of them. um,
Okay.
but my view and my view would be, so you've got certainly in ISKCON, you've got the four regulated principles. In reality, behind closed doors, married couples are following just three,
Oh,
and not the
is that
fourth.
what you're doing? And so is that your
That that
interpretation of
that's what, if devotees were really honest about it,
mm.
they're not following the
Unless they're
fourth
drinking
one.
coffee as well. What about the coffee
Um,
drinkers as well? We have to remember those ones as well. The coffee drinkers and the. I mean, I think that. I mean,
um,
we could even talk about. I don't know if Jack went into. Like, we talk about sort of like dairy. Like, I think that really we should be moving towards like a vegan way, because of, we can talk about the dairy industry and how, if Prabhupada, and I think there is a bit of the Sriva Bhagavatam where if I could look, I'd tell you, that Prabhupada actually sort of says, you know we can't talk about it in the Sriva Bhagavatam because it will literally um upset the whole works, because we know how, factory farming is going. Yes, Krishna should enjoy the himsa milk, but I don't believe that the humans should. Again, like, I think it's going back to maybe what we were talking about off air. I think some of these things do need updating. We do need updating, and Prabhupada was right in the 70s. But if we really thought about, even our milk consumption, let's not talk about having sex with, you know, your partner that you've been with for however long. If we talked about how we were using dairy products, if if Krishna, surely Krishna can't think that that's a good thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It's
it does. I think you and I could chat about so many things
we
today.
could,
We
I'm
can go
sorry.
off on all
Yeah,
these kind of
I
tangents.
realise.
And it's kind of a conversation can go so many different ways.
Yeah, I
The
apologise. That's my fault.
no, it's fine. The Krishna conscious diet, the Vedic diet, the Vaishnav diet, is pure vegetarianism. So it's not eggs, but it is milk. And I'd say broadly, if we can get milk from cows that are not being slaughtered, then that's wonderful. But most cows, the majority, certainly in the Western world,
Absolutely.
and I don't even know what the stats are for India these days, but if we can get milk from
I
cows
bet
that are
it's
not slaughtered, that's ideal. There is a practice in Krishna consciousness that you should offer everything to the Lord before consuming it anyway. But if you get milk from Tesco, there's a good chance it's come from cow that's going to be slaughtered. So you at least
slaughtered,
offer the milk to Krishna, and the karma then is taken away from it. Spiritually benefits that cow somewhere down the spiritual chain.
I mean,
but a lot of devotees are becoming
surely
vegans,
not.
even though
Yeah.
veganism is not the prescribed diet. But it doesn't bother me that people are vegans.
No.
You know, I've always, as you probably worked out by now, kind of promoted quite a progressively liberal approach to most things.
Yeah, me too, I would say.
As long as you're not hurting yourself or other people. No one has
Absolutely.
any right to tell you how to live your life. You have to choose that for yourself.
I mean, it's just when you think about, I suppose there'll always be, with anything that we do, right, and anything that we put our heart and soul into, and please don't get me wrong, my heart and soul is in this. I Sri Sri Radha Madhava are my beloved, my lordship, right? I still think that in a healthy relationship with this, whether it be ISKCON or whoever, right, we should be able to question, no blind faith into. We should be able to, if we saw something that we didn't agree with, I would say something, right? If I don't agree with things, I do say. I mean, I have often wanted to talk about how going back to women's experiences in Krishna consciousness. There are also places in like the Srimad Bhagavatam, like especially those first cantos, that are quite, as a woman listening to those cantos, maybe he's not talking about us because we're devotee women, that's different. But they do, we're told how, we're more submissive, or we're more passive, or we're not as clever as the men, or there are places. And so I think that there seems to be a lot of things that if you want to we could pick holes in a lot of things. But overall, I think that Krishna consciousness and Krishna, any sort of whether it be ISKCON Krishna consciousness or anything, this is for me the best way to go, especially being a woman, because it teaches that we are not the body. But also it means that as the movement moves forward, pun the pun, it hopefully, as more women get involved, and more women are getting involved and getting high places in the movement, they'll have an effect on how, and maybe there'll be the brahmachari rules, where the brahmacharis have to shush the women's ankle beads are making too much noise when they're trying to chant. I don't know. It's one of those, hopefully, as the world becomes a bit more, not even women focused, but just a real sense of equality, then hopefully the movement will too. I mean, I don't know, but I would like to think so.
I love that kind of ending. Not that we're ending necessarily now, but I love that as kind of a final sum up of this podcast in terms of and you kind of Hare Krishna movement moving forward. And it's and I mean I agree with you, by the way, in terms of we have to, and I gave a talk recently on the Hare Krishna Project social media channels about we have to I think I am of the view that we should be part of a movement that looks more modern and representative of the modern world. And that doesn't mean that absolutely doesn't mean the philosophy of Krishna consciousness changes, but it's the way we present it. I
Absolutely.
always give the example of Christianity. One of the reasons, other than war and bloodshed, one of the reasons that Christianity's been so successful over 2,000 years is it's learned to mold and adapt according to
Exactly.
time, place, and circumstance. So the message of Christianity is always the same: Jesus died for your sins, accept Jesus as your savior. But the way Christianity is presented in the public can change from not just country to country, but town to town. So I grew up with kind of Methodist Christianity in Somerset, where, but that looks very different from Syrian Orthodox Christianity in Syria.
Yes.
But the message is the same, just how we're doing it's different. And the same with Bhakti Yoga, Krishna Consciousness, or Gaudiya Vaishnavism. We should be more open to recognizing that other people might want to do it differently. Some people might not want to wear clothes that are from India. They might just rather prefer more of a shirt and trousers.
I mean, but I think that there is room for that. I mean, as I would say that yes, I dressed that, you dress the part for you. I'm gonna be on the telly, but you know what I mean. I'm gonna be on the internet. I want to come across, and I mean, I suppose I do definitely dress differently now, but that's not because I feel like I need to. It's just that my whole ethos has changed. The way that I interact with my personal affects is different because or does it go with my champ bag, I suppose, as well. You got to have does it go with my Jaffa bag? But I think that once you realize that all of this stuff doesn't really even matter, then your whole outlook changes. No, necessarily you don't. And again, especially being a white woman, it sometimes doesn't look good for us to walk around in full sari. Doesn't look good. I don't think what we should be appropriating that. Yes, I should be wearing tilak because Krishna wanted us wearing tilak. All devotees should wear tilak. Should I be walking around in full sari? I mean, I don't know. I'd have to find reference. I'd have to look through all of it to find out if I'm meant to be. I mean, Prabhupada did say that you should keep your women in gold and saris. I'm still waiting for my gold, by the way. We'll have to remind him. But it's difficult, especially when you don't know what to do. So I think it's whatever feels comfortable needs to be the way. You don't want to come across being rude or racist or anything. You're trying to be. It's not, and it's also, I don't think it needs to be treated like a uniform. I mean, I think maybe for Jack it's a little bit different because his seeker very much sort of, I don't want to say gives it away, but but I mean, I think it really suits him, and I was very happy because I have to keep that up, obviously, but I think that I don't think that's also acquiring anything that's not ours, because I would always refer to myself as a Gaudiya Vaishnav. I'm not quite, see, that's an interesting thing. I don't know if I'm uncomfortable saying that I'm a Hare Krishna yet. That's an interesting thing. I would say I was a Gaudiya Vaishnav. And me and Jack have also talked about that quite a lot. So, like, why would you not call yourself a Hare Krishna? Well, because probably people have certain visions of Hare Krishnas, and you go, no, but if I say I'm a Gaudiya Vaishnav, or even just a Vaishnav, then they go, oh, what's that? Then you can sort of have the conversation. But I think it's, when I've worked it all out, I'll let you know.
Rebecca, we've been chatting.
I feel like I've not talked about anything that I want.
You like a chat for ages. I'm conscious we've been chatting for a whole hour.
And I think that my daughter's about to come home as well. So she.
So I'm going to say goodbye to our viewers at home, and you and I can have a very brief debrief after, before your daughter gets home from her day out.
Yes. They've been Harinaming. We've got just quickly, we've got Radio 2 part. I don't think it's called Party in the Park anymore, but they're doing something in the centre of Leicester. Who's there? There's what's her name? Kylie Minogue's there. There's
wow.
So they've obviously the temple have decided to go Harinam outside, which so that I could talk to
Kylie
you.
Minogue,
And
she's big, yeah.
yes, and Rick Astley, yes, Rick Astley, yes, he was
Also
there.
big, bit of a one-hit wonder, but he's also big.
No, it's the internet that's made his career at the moment. My son loves Rick Rolliness. Anyway, completely off the subject.
So,
but yes,
Rebecca, we'll have so don't go away. We'll have a brief chat after, but just to
no, thank you to everybody though.
thank you
I
for
hope I
being the
didn't
guest.
confuse the things. If anything to take away from this, that if you're worried about going to anything ISKCON, please don't be, and be outspoken, please. Join my club of being an outspoken white woman thinking that she knows everything, and make a few mistakes, and because they'll pick you up on it, but they'll do it in the kindest way, and you'll learn so much. And go and fall in love with your local deity. It's magic. Please, not
Well,
magic,
I'm
but it's
pleased. I'm
beautiful.
pleased that you've joined the Hare Krishna
Yes,
family.
me
I
too.
would love to have more people like you in the Hare Krishna movement, to add a bit more color and
As long as
excitement and character and
yes, yes, as long as I
energy.
don't get kicked out for being, talking too much. Yeah, that'll be it.
Hopefully not. So
No, I'm sure not.
a big thank you to Rebecca from Leicester for being guest number 83. My goodness, 83 on the Hare Krishna Project podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do hit that all important subscribe button to keep updated about future podcasts and videos, bit of an old-fashioned term. And the same on the Hare Krishna Project Facebook page. If you're watching it there, please do like, love, or care for it, and like and or follow the page so you keep updated about what I and others are doing in the future. So until next week, I will see you all soon. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Harry Ball.